Hello, and welcome to episode 29 of the Fan Finder podcast. I'm your host, Megan Kuhar. Today, I have another Coaching on Air episode, and I am welcoming Nissim. He's a musician for the band Flowtone, and he had a couple of questions for me about how to make each platform that he's utilizing right now be unique. And he just wondered, it's all the same brand. There should be consistency, but are we trying to tell the same story, different sides of the same story, or a different story altogether on each of our platforms? He currently utilizes YouTube premieres, Instagram, and he has a Facebook page and group for his band, which I think is awesome, utilizing a Facebook group. So we're going to talk a lot about how to manage all of those platforms with consistency, both in messaging and in scheduling and planning and prioritizing. So I'm really excited for you to hear this episode. I hope that as I coach Nissim, you are able to also gather some little nuggets of wisdom and action steps for yourself. These are all common questions. So that's why I really love these Coaching on Air episodes, because it gives everyone a chance to be able to learn from each other and hear each other's current struggles and hear how I would suggest you work on them and jump over the hurdles and move forward and grow as a musician, as a creative brand. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear this conversation. So let's get into it. You're listening to the Fan Finder podcast. I'm your host, Megan Kuhar, and I help musicians stop panic posting and start creating killer content online. This show is all about branding, marketing, entrepreneurship, and social media, teaching you how to organically build your audience and find your fans so you can grow your career and start inspiring more people with your music. Let's do this. Well, welcome, Nissim. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and just kind of share your background with the listeners?
Sure. So I'm a guitarist and singer and the frontman in a band called Flowtone, and currently really working on engaging our fan base. And we're kind of at the point where we're taking on new fans, and people are starting to recognize us, or at least gravitate towards our music. And right now it's really, but since we've been a band for about 4 to 5 years, they haven't really seen that period. So right now I feel like a lot of what we're trying to do is show them kind of our process, how we got here, and through that we're doing that through Facebook groups, kind of trying to create a more of an exclusive community to engage with our more super fans. And yeah, I think right now the challenge is kind of managing the different platforms that we're on, Instagram, Facebook, and really just being able to give a unique side of our story on each of the platforms. And yeah, it's been it's been a good few months for us in terms of just getting more people involved in listening to our music. But like I said, I think the challenge right now is just knowing how to manage everything and how to engage with our fans on different platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's such a common question and struggle, because I know people tend to get a little bit overwhelmed with how many platforms there are out there, I mean, you mentioned to me YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, but I know that there's so many things that pop up all the time, like TikToks, Snapchat was huge for a while. Now I feel like not so many people are on it. Instagram stories, Instagram lives, Facebook. So it's super common for musicians who are just trying to really take social media seriously to feel a little bit overwhelmed with where should I focus, and should I focus on all of them or choose one or what? So I totally understand your struggle. So I want to just ask like a couple of follow-up questions. You mentioned to me in your survey that you have had some success with Facebook groups and doing YouTube premieres. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you do manage a Facebook group that's not for your band, but you had talked to me a little bit about doing Facebook groups for your band. So how much of that are you really trying out, and what's your experience with doing groups and also with doing YouTube premieres?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, those areas definitely are something that have worked for us. And since managing a Facebook group for a company that I work for, Modern Musician, that's really given me the kind of tools and perspective to implement that for our band. And so the way we set it up really is kind of funneling people through like a surveying process, a really like not so formal, but more of a conversational process through Facebook Messenger, or maybe we'll just add people that we know are fans. And so that group is really just for our people who really want to see like behind the scenes of what we're doing. And yeah, that's been going well. And then alongside that, YouTube premieres is something that I've also tried recently, and I've only done it twice thus far, but both times, and I think a big part of it was using our subscriber list to kind of fuel that. It wasn't just using, YouTube's natural, traffic, so to speak. It was more using our subscriber list to be like, hey, we've got our song premiering tonight on YouTube. It'd be great if you could join. It's a good incentive to get people to watch, since it's so live and so kind of immediate. And so that's definitely helped us give our videos a kickstart in terms of, just giving the YouTube algorithm something to, I guess, recognize that it's getting views when it first goes up, versus something that you put up and then it just kind of sits for a while, which I've definitely done. So the YouTube premiere is kind of a good way to work with YouTube's algorithm.
Mm-hmm. And so that's fantastic, by the way. So, not many bands are really pursuing Facebook groups. And I think that's a really awesome place for a band to live, because, it's like the new version of a fan club. And I just think like having that private, if it's set to private and set like so that you have to join to be able to be a part of it and see anything on it, I think that's a fantastic platform for bands to use. It's kind of really community based, and that's a lot of what I talk about as far as like building a loyal fan base. It's not really about numbers, it's more about how devoted are your followers, and having a presence on Facebook groups is a really great place to foster that community. So I think that's fantastic that you're doing that. I think it's also great that you're utilizing incentive-based promotion. So if you are using your email list to try and get them to either, pre-save a song or go to a YouTube premiere or something like that, or pre-order an album, that's always really great, because especially like you said, when numbers come in all at once like that for a YouTube premiere, or if when the album releases, all those pre-orders, they all count for that first day. So it's a really great way to sort of boost your presence on those platforms. And that's really good that you're doing that. For those who are listening who don't know what that is, it's a really great opportunity to be able to get your fans to for those numbers to really shoot up in one instance. So really great job. Congrats on that. That's really good. I think one thing, like you mentioned a lot about utilizing your email list to promote these things. But I think Instagram is a really great place to do that too, if you're not already. You don't need to just have your Instagram be, photos or videos about what you're currently working on, or photos or videos, clips of songs or things like that. Like you can definitely utilize Instagram to start teasing out content that's going to be released on YouTube, and teasing more about what your Facebook group is up to and things like that. You wanted to know, kind of how unique each platform should be. I think the answer to that is that each platform should have its own special quality to it. It's okay to share the same story throughout multiple platforms, but you should have something unique on each platform that makes it so that a fan would want to join all of them, and they're not just getting regurgitated content. So having your Instagram be the place where you guys show up daily in stories, and you're doing behind the scenes stuff and doing more Instagram lives, Q&As, things like that, that's fantastic for Instagram. Having Facebook groups where maybe you share more demos or kind of raw recordings or live stream rehearsals, things like that are a little bit more exclusive. You can only access this if you join our group, and you have to actually you have to apply to join. You can't just be a public member and stumble across it. You have to be able to be approved and everything. So having that unique aspect to each platform would be really fantastic. And so I wonder, are you hoping to kind of foster that sort of, I mentioned this in the last Coaching on Air episode, that hopscotch around each platform where, Instagram leads to Facebook groups, which leads to YouTube premieres, which, they all sort of lead to each other and to the mailing list. Does that feel like the right way for you? Does that feel like what you are hoping to achieve, or is that not quite aligned with what you guys were hoping to do?
No, I think it is a good point. I think hearing you say it is definitely giving me a little bit more clarity. The great part about having Facebook groups is, like you said, it's more of an exclusive community. People are more likely to engage. But the challenge there is it just adds another platform for you to, have to consider, which if you do, it's great. It's just kind of managing, like you said, like the hopscotch method, like having one thing to lead to the next. And I think we're just getting started with using Instagram to lead to our Facebook group, and using that to lead to our subscriber list. I think we could be more effective in that. And I think that's kind of like the missing piece is kind of seeing like how all of them connect. Because most people are if they're not on few of the platforms that you're on, they're probably on most of them. So it's definitely a good idea to kind of like, promote a YouTube video from Facebook and then promote it from Instagram, and then bring people over to your Facebook group who seem like really, passionate about your music. I guess that's just the challenge, is just really being able to manage all of those, and also offer something different to each platform, like you said. And sometimes as I'm making these content plans, which now I've been more adamant about, because, there's a lot more engagement online at the moment. It's just something I've been considering even more. And I wouldn't say that I have it all thought out to where how I really want it, but I'm definitely considering how they all connect. And I think, like what you said, it just definitely gave me more clarity on that. I think anyone who has all these platforms, it's definitely something to consider. And I think it'll be different for, each and every band or musician.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some ideas are kind of popping in my mind too. And what I hear from you is I hear that it's not just like the idea of knowing what to say, but it's also the management of trying to get your schedule together and get the plan together. And so my thought is that, so hear me out as I kind of like brainstorm this out loud. So I think if you start by planning out your Instagram posts ahead of time. So actually in FanFinder, I have a content map for planning a whole month ahead. So let's say you go through the whole month ahead and you spend one weekend and you plan Instagram a month ahead. And throughout that month, there's a few target points that you're sort of leading towards. So maybe at the end of the month, there's a single that you're releasing, and that's going to be on YouTube Premiere, right? So in the middle of the month, maybe you have like a raw mix of it that you release to your Facebook group. And so you have all these sort of like touch points that you're kind of reaching throughout the month. And so on Instagram, you can share day-to-day life, you can share that in stories, but your feed content should be sort of leading towards those touch points. So, throughout the week, you can say like, we've been working hard on this single, sort of journal entry it out and say like, what went into recording the single, what went into writing it, what sort of struggles have you been dealing with as far as mixing it or whatever, like all the aspects of the song you can share a little bit every day. And you can do that by planning it all ahead. And then when you plan it ahead, it's done, right? So Instagram, it takes a weekend and you're done. Check, right? So it takes some time. It's not like it's really quick, but once it's done, you can plan it and you can be done with it. On Facebook groups, one way to kind of ease the burden a little bit of creating content for that group is to do more video live streams or do more like quick video check-ins. And don't worry about them being, perfectly edited and branded and everything. People just want to hear from you. So if you go on on Facebook group and go live once a week, that's hardly any work except for the time it takes to do the live. So you're not really having to pre-write stuff. You're not having to plan anything. It's just a chance for you to check in with your group and have Q&As and things like that. And that can be really beneficial. And it's not too much work. And my other thought for YouTube premieres, which would be really cool to kind of, as you're promoting these premieres and promoting the single release, you could have like an after hour Q&A back in your group after it's over, right? So everyone watches together on YouTube, and then when it's over, you guys go live on Facebook and everybody gets to hang out. And maybe even for that live, maybe you do it on your public Facebook page, So all this time, what you're doing is you're trying to make it easier for yourself by not only planning ahead, like some of it's planned ahead and scheduled ahead, but also like do stuff that takes little post-production, if you will. So like, live streams are really great because it's just a matter of like getting used to going live and you don't need to worry about any post-production. It's a quick turnaround. So, you might be able to do something like that to help ease the burden a little bit of scheduling all that stuff out and, planning ahead. It feels like it's going to be more work. It's kind of an oxymoron because a lot of times when I tell musicians, plan your content ahead of time, they'll respond with, well, I don't have time to plan it ahead of time. But my answer to that is you actually don't have time not to plan it ahead of time because you're probably wasting more time fretting about what to post on Instagram and trying to figure out what to write at the last minute than you would if you just sat down for like a couple hours and really scheduled it out and figured it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've heard you mention that before, and I've taken that to heart. For this, so we're basically doing, a lot more live streaming than we have because people are cooped up at home, and it just seems like the best way to connect. And I did about a week ago put together a plan based off what kind of feedback we got from our Facebook group. We'll do polls in there every once in a while just to get an idea of what people really want to see, and they really wanted to see like the process behind everything. So kind of put together a content plan that covers the writing, recording, and release process kind of respectively. And it's kind of a 3-prong plan to show, which also coincides with 3 live streams. So having that plan in place definitely helped.
That's fantastic. That sounds really good.
Mm-hmm. And I think as I was writing that plan, really the main challenge was just including all of the platforms, like you said, like they're like, so far in my plan, I had, Instagram as far as what to post on the feed. I had Facebook as far as what to post on our page. And then I had the group, what to post in the group. And, but then there's, the Instagram stories and then and YouTube. So I think the challenge for me sitting down was just like the quality of things that had to be planned, which is definitely something to consider depending on how many platforms you're on. But it definitely gave me a leg up on actually producing the content and putting it out. But it was definitely like a challenge because we're on like all these platforms, and we wanted to like have something unique on each platform. So
sure. Can you give me an example of how that might work? So let's say, just for like one post, like what would you right now, like what would you do on Instagram, on your page, on your group for like one idea?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the idea was basically to have like to show three sides of the process. And so for instance, the first live stream was going to be us answering questions about writing, our writing process. So we, we kind of told like a story behind one of the songs. Like this is a story about how it was written. And actually one of our songs was written with like completely different band members. So we kind of had a really cool story behind it about how it went from, evolving from different band members getting remixed and then us putting it out in our current band, or our current lineup at least. So we shared kind of the behind the scenes story about that because people hadn't really heard about it. And then that was our like forward facing like content on our Facebook page. And then for our Facebook group, I literally took a picture of like my, like the song, like how I wrote a song, like, so like draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, and draft 4. Like I shared literally like, it kind of felt like sharing my journal almost. Like it was like extremely personal to me, but I was like, hey guys, like you are the exclusive group. I want to share this. And then for Instagram, the Instagram and Facebook kind of connected in terms of like, it had the same picture, but the stories, using Instagram stories to ask questions and kind of show like, so I did like a picture of like where we were going to go live, like, hey guys, going live in the space, in our living room, and like, hey guys, if you have any questions, send us, and just kind of like trying to build up the hype around the live stream and get people's questions in terms of like, what they were wondering about our writing process, and get people involved that way.
Mm-hmm. So when you did that, how did that feel? Did that work out? How did it feel after you shared that content?
Yeah, it's strange because like I said, it was very personal, like almost felt like sharing, my journal, my diary, at least to our Facebook group. And we're still in the midst of releasing it. So we have three posts for every part of the process. So like 3 posts about writing, 3 posts about recording, and then 3 about release. And so we're on like the 4th post total. So we're like, I'm in the middle of it right now. So it's a little bit like, in hindsight, I'll be able to tell like, how effective each one was. But so far it's been definitely a good way to engage with people. And I think really what I wanted to do was kind of like leave like a roadmap for people who are just stumbling on our page or just becoming a fan. And I think before, like, they see like what you want them to see. So if you're, and especially with us, like we've had so many different members throughout the past 4 to 5 years that we're just a completely different band than we were 5 years ago. And I kind of wanted people to see that, like, see the journey. And so, yeah, like I wanted to kind of like leave it almost as like a roadmap. So when this is all done, which is like, another 2 weeks from now, people that are just finding us will be able to kind of scroll through our feed and see like, oh, like I didn't know, like they had a different singer and a different guitarist, and then this is how they developed this song, and just kind of like leaving like little clues for people to find. So yeah, to answer your question, I think like I'll be able to see once this is kind of all put out, like exactly how effective each one was. But so far, like our live stream definitely got some good traction, and each post is definitely doing well. I think but it's hard to tell because we're kind of like in it right now.
Sure. Yeah. I think I wanted to ask because I think what's going on, I mean, like what you're doing sounds awesome. Like it all sounds like you've got a really good plan. Like you've got, personally, I think it's totally okay to have Instagram and Facebook, the page and the feed have very similar posts, if not identical posts. But what makes it different is that on Instagram, you're really, participating in stories. And like you said, asking questions, getting people involved, getting people engaging with your stories, you doing, fan questions, responding to them, things like that. Like that's what makes Instagram special. And I think what you're doing sounds awesome. So for me, like, I wonder if it's you are just second guessing or, maybe you feel like you're missing something. But from my perspective, it sounds like everything that you're doing is really great. And I think like, just give yourself a little bit of, I don't know, like a little bit of grace, a little bit of understanding that like you've got to give this time to sort of sink in with people and really work. But what it sounds like you're doing, it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. So, I think just keep doing that. Like keep directing people to those different areas, keep getting them involved. I don't know what your numbers are, but it is hard to get people in groups to participate. So if you're getting any sort of engagement in a Facebook group, props to you because that is really difficult. So, I think it's really, really great what you're doing.
Yeah, the Facebook group is actually one of the easiest to get engagement in, which is great because
good.
When we have about 100 people in the Facebook group, and which is fine because they're all dedicated fans.
That's 100 loyal people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And so the fact that 10 to 15 of them are engaging with a post, that's on any given post, maybe more or less on different ones, but that to me is great because it just shows that that doesn't happen just on your Facebook page. Like you don't get 10 to 15% of your total followers. So that to me is great. And to your point, I told myself at the beginning of this whole process, like, okay, I'm like, no matter what happens, no matter how I'm feeling like about it, I'm going to go ahead with the plan because I know at the end of this, it's more about the kind of big picture. And I don't want to get like too self-conscious about every post. And just to continue with this is going to be like a big achievement for me, just to like get it all out there. So I definitely, like I told myself, like, however you're feeling, because I'm sharing a lot of like personal things and I'm being very vulnerable, and I'm also getting the band to also share some of their insights on writing and recording and just very personal stories. So I just I don't want to get too caught up in like the self-conscious thoughts, and I want to make sure that this plan gets put out there because I think it's more I think in the future it'll seem like a bigger deal than it is now, because we're just like I said, we're in it now, so it's very hard to tell. Okay, well, how are people? How are new people who are just joining our page or just following us going to react to this? Because I'm also thinking about people who don't even know about us. Let alone the people who we're already engaging with. That's obviously on my mind as well. But yeah, there's going to be new people who come across our page, and I'm thinking about those people too.
Absolutely. And, just, make sure that you have kind of quick starts for those people. So like on your Instagram highlights, do a couple highlights if you don't have them already where you are like bookmarking those things so that people can find them. Make sure you're not just highlighting stories that you share on the stories part of Instagram, but also share your feed posts to your stories and then highlight those because when somebody first arrives to your account, you want them to be able to like binge watch stuff and really, get to know you really quickly. So highlights are a great place for people to kind of dig in and get to know you. So think about that too, just kind of as a quick sidebar.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely taking notes on that because I'm not the best at Instagram stories or highlights. And we do have highlights up, but it's, like I said, it's just like being able to, I guess, like manage each of the arms of your social media channels, and do it effectively, and using the platform as in its natural, what it's naturally good at, which is, like you said, sharing that personal kind of behind the scenes. So yeah, no taken on that for sure.
Yeah, and just as like a recap action step thing to send you off with, it's just to think, like, first of all, try to think big picture. Like, don't worry too much about what each post is doing, like as far as how it's doing and how many comments it's getting and everything. Think big picture, and like, what's the picture I'm generating for my audience, and am I doing a good job of that or not? And that's how you kind of can judge whether you're doing well or not. The second thing is, as much as possible, plan and schedule things out ahead of time, so that you don't feel like you're managing all those different arms at once. And so that, at least the general posts that go on Instagram and Facebook page can just be done ahead of time. Those are things that, they don't need to be daily life. Like, they could be more, think of them like mini blog posts where you're really sharing more about what you guys are up to, what your history is, what your process is, all that stuff. So that all can be planned ahead of time. That will really, really help you feel less stressed about managing all that stuff. So those are the two big things. And then, obviously live streams too are really great, just because, like I was saying, it's good for not having to do a lot of planning and post-production. So I think those are the three things. Like, think big picture, plan as much as possible, live stream to get some content out there without having to do too much work. And I hope that helps you feel a little bit more like you can manage stuff.
Yeah, it definitely does. And actually, like, doing this whole content, like this, I mean, I guess this more recent content plan actually I was definitely inspired by, like, your podcast. Like, I was listening to it a couple weeks ago, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling for this whole thing. So, like, yeah, like, it's just great to, like, actually be able to talk with you about this, because I was listening, like, on to various podcasts that you, or I guess, like, episodes that you published, and taking notes on the different platforms that you're talking about. And the big takeaway that I got was, like, having that plan, and so, like, and seeing it, like, big picture. So that's what kind of led me to think about this process, like, how, like, showing people our process. So yeah, thank you for sharing, like, your insights. That was, like, a huge help for me. Just coming up with this plan in general.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing that. That really is good to hear. So I appreciate it. All right. Do you have any other questions for me or anything, or anything else you want to ask really quick?
No, I think I'm definitely going to take time to digest all of this. I think for the most part, like, in terms of planning ahead, I have been, I have, like, one of the, like, Planoly, like, that app that you can kind of plan things out on your Instagram. And then I have, like, all the pictures kind of set up and everything. I guess one question I do have as a follow-up to that is, so I have, like, the visual content I'm going to produce already planned out. But would you also recommend, like, having, and I have the idea that I'm going to write about, it's more so, like, when it comes to the day of that I need to publish it, like, I'm kind of like, okay, well, now I need to get the caption ready. And I feel like maybe it's just a simple answer of just, like, do that ahead of time. But yeah, I guess my question is, should that be part of the plan too? Like, having the caption planned ahead of time? Is that really important in the planning process?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the thing that takes the most time. And that's the majority of what you would want to really do ahead of time. And actually, what you're describing is a little bit opposite of what most people I talk to do, which is they will write out their caption and then maybe just have, like, a placeholder image and then replace the image later. But so I definitely think writing the caption is a big, big part planning it ahead of time. And it won't, once you get into that zone, in fact, the episode that's coming out this week when we're recording this is all about getting focused and learning how to get into a deep work state, which is when you really focus and get uninterrupted work done. So listen to that episode. It'll be really good. And you can just have an hour where you sit down and write out like 30 captions within an hour. So yeah, definitely do those ahead of time. That'll be a big time sucker later.
Yeah, I'll definitely listen to that one because that would be amazing to kind of get, get that process going. I guess I've had the ideas of what I was going to talk about, but yeah, like you said, having the captions fully written out, that would definitely take a lot of pressure off of me. So yeah,
just do it. Just get it done. Rip off the Band-Aid because it's going to be the thing that takes the longest later for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, can you let us know where everyone can find you and follow your band and check out all the awesome stuff you're posting?
Yeah, definitely. So on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Flowtone, FLOWTONE. And on Instagram, we are Go With The Flowtone. That's also our website, gowiththeflowtone.com. And if you search us on YouTube, just search Flowtone and you'll find us.
Awesome. That's really great. So, hey, in a couple months, maybe 6 months or so, I can check in with you and see how things are going. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks so much for chatting. Good luck. Let me know if you need anything else, okay?
All right. Thank you, Megan.
All right. Thanks. Did you love today's episode? Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review. Or share your takeaways by taking a screenshot of your podcast app and tagging me on Instagram stories at Megan Kuhar. And if you're looking to learn more about how to get ready to create killer content, check out my ebook, The Fan Finder Mindset, at megan-kuhar.com/mindset. Be sure to use the coupon code podcast for $4 off. See you next time.